neighbors. Welcome to the Tipsy Neighbors podcast. We are 5 friends with varied opinions and backgrounds. We openly and honestly discuss the subject of the day. No topic is off limits. In fact, if you'd like us to chat about something that's been on your mind, find us on the web at tipsyneighbors.com, on Instagram at The Tipsy Neighbors, or on X, formerly Twitter, at Tipsy Neighbors. Now let's get this episode started.
You guys, I am so excited that we are finally doing this. Like, how long has it been since we've been sitting outside in our driveways and talking about random shit and thinking, gosh, we should have recorded that?
At least
4 years.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years.
At least.
In depth for 3 years, but probably 4 we should have been recording.
Well, but then a couple of years ago, we started talking about equipment, and then a year ago, we started talking about where to do it. So it's kind of been a progression.
Yeah.
A little slower than a lot, but we're busy people. So.
Takes us at least 3 years to make something happen. But
Well, it's
yeah,
either
we
a
are.
podcast or a cartoon of our lives. So one of the two had to happen.
we did have that idea. Podcast was easier, turns out.
I was going to mime it on the corner as well, but here we are. Let's podcast.
So we're 2 couples and Ty, so 5 of us.
The fifth wheel divorcee.
The wheel.
Here I am. Being single is my wheelhouse. Fifth wheelhouse.
No, I love it. But we all joined the neighborhood like 2019-ish. I know that Brad and Whitney moved in a little bit earlier than that. Like
Just 2 months before
Okay.
2019.
Okay.
The end of 18. So
Yeah. So many times, many conversations, we end up being out in the driveway and watching the kids play, and we just get talking. Like, we would just start having conversations, and we would be drinking or other things, and
And really just discussing things.
Yes.
Life, where we're at, what our struggles are. And
Yeah, no topic was off.
and we all
Limits.
have different ideas on things. So it's not like we're all agreeants and we're all gung ho for one thing. There's definitely some hard debates happening.
Totally.
But everybody keeps coming back for more because it's been respectful, it's been in depth, it's been deep, but everybody keeps coming back because everybody respects one another and everyone else's opinions.
When I
Totally.
think it always felt safe that we could
Yes.
share an opinion, we could have our voice and feel comfortable and safe sharing it.
Yeah.
Well, and we've always shown each other that we care about each other, and whatever we do share, whether it's criticism or whether it's praise or whatever it is, we just know that it comes from a place that's of love. We all love each other for sure.
I mean, it's shown in different ways, but that's basically how it goes. Like, hey, stop being a a-hole.
Are we talking about that day I punched you in the face?
You're talking about how
Was that
you
a
don't
love?
answer your door on Halloween.
It was out of love, really.
I was just correcting you like I would my children.
correct.
No, I think too, like, I think you said it, like, nothing is off limits. One of you said that, like, and I think that is super important because those are the subjects that we're going to talk about here, are stuff that I think people are curious about, but that nobody, and I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people are not, they don't feel like they're safe to bring things up or talk about it, especially with your neighbors, which is
Right.
why I think this is going to be so fun, is that, we know that it's safe, and we've been through a lot of these conversations, and we're all friends afterwards, regardless of the
Well, they're not all easy
kinky
conversations.
stuff. Well, they're easy.
Well,
They're easy to have.
they're easy to have. I mean, it makes you self-reflect after some of the nights we've had.
There's been a lot of I've never seen it before, which is one of the reasons we wanted to start this, because there are some tough conversations. There are some times where we've called each other out on some things, like, you need to watch this, or like, hey, I see that you're doing this, and like, you might want to take a step back. I'm seeing it from the other side.
Why is everyone looking at me right now?
Actually, I'm not, but Whitney was.
You're easy on the eyes, bro.
Agree with me right now. Just kidding. No, and I feel like that's something that I've never personally had in another neighborhood for sure. And even in a lot of other friend groups, like, I haven't felt like I can sit and have someone I can call someone else out, or they can call me out, and I know that we're going to go home at the end of the night. We're still going to be friends. We're going to get up the next day and we're going to sit in the driveway and everything's going to be fine.
Totally.
It's our own anti-social media where everything is so polarized. It seems like you can't talk about anything publicly anymore. We just bring it up with each other and speak our minds. And sometimes we're corrected and sometimes we're agreed with. And like Brad mentioned, we all have our opinions on it and we share them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I don't know if it's stereotypical, but like in my guys friend group, we go out to dinner and I get home and Whitney is like, what did you guys talk about? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, well, so-and-so left his job. Well, what's he doing? I don't know. Like, what? How the hell do I know? Like, I don't know. She's like, you didn't ask. I'm like, I don't. It's not my business. I don't know. Like,
guys don't ask.
You know, it's like, well, are him and his wife still happy? I'm like, how the hell do I know? Like, I'm not asking questions. And that's the stereotypical guy relationship, at least that I think, at least that I have with my friends. And so
it's probably why I have none of those relationships.
It seems all like, I know you guys all care about each other, and I do think I think females just talk a lot about stuff, and like we love the tea and we're willing to spill a lot of stuff, but I still think even in that there's a lot of like surface level friendships. Even like if you're willing to share certain things, some of other topics are still off the table that you wouldn't talk to other people about. And I have yet to find a topic in this group that has been off the table.
I don't know. You're friends and you guys talk about some stuff. Like,
we talk about a lot of stuff.
But I'm just saying, I think it's helped me grow personally being in this group of the conversations that we've had outside, because I don't think it's normal conversations I would have in my friend group. You know, like maybe Whitney and I would have the conversations, but nowhere else. Yeah. And I think in this group, we've had those conversations, and it's been the in-depth, deep conversations where it's like, oh, maybe I do need to take a look in the mirror and find out what's happening.
I think you get a lot of perspective when we're able to share that and get opinions from each other. And like we said earlier, in a safe, comfortable position, and then go back and reflect back at home.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that leads perfectly into that's kind of the purpose of what we want to create here is a safe space that's judgment-free, guilt-free, shame-free, all of that. And whether it be that you write in and the listeners write in and want us to talk about certain things, or maybe they want to participate. But I think our goal is that you can see that this is possible to have these conversations, and that it's safe to do so, and maybe you can start doing that in your own neighborhood.
I would love that. If we inspired others to have these same, discourses with each other.
And the thing is, if people write in with comments or discussions to have, the group here is going to have different outlooks on it. Which is awesome. And I think that's kind of one of the things that made it exciting of like, well, it'd be nice to see what other people are talking about. We could talk about it. We're not all going to agree, but it'll at least open our minds to what else is out there and other opinions.
Yeah, totally. So I guess with that, maybe we introduce ourselves to kind of show the listeners how we are a little different, maybe our backgrounds, our own relationships and family, the makeup of families and whatnot.
Awesome.
I like it. Who wants to start?
Well, I think that we should have Brad and Whitney go first, since they were the first ones to move into the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
The founders, if you will.
Okay, I'll start. So this is Whitney. You might recognize my voice since I'm the only female on this podcast. I grew up in Sandy, Utah. I have 3 siblings, and I am the middle child, which might sound weird since there's 4 of us, but my younger siblings are twins, so I truly am the middle child. So file that away. You know how middle children are. I was raised LDS. I did the very Utah Mormon thing, and I got married at 19. Not to Brad.
Those are going to be some fun stories.
Yeah,
too.
We'll have
more to come on
that. Got some stories about
12 years later, we call it fun.
Very traumatic. Very traumatic. Yeah, and then I had a daughter with my now ex-husband, and we were married for 5 years and got divorced. And then Brad and I got married, and we have a daughter together, and that's kind of that in a nutshell.
Happily ever after?
Happily ever after.
Wow.
Yep.
Let's go.
11 years married, and
Inspiration.
so far we're killing it.
Doesn't feel a year less than 20, but
No issues whatsoever.
Perfectly happy. Perfectly happy. You want to go?
So me, okay, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm Bradley, Whitney's other half, the
Yep.
happily ever after
The
story.
new half.
The new half.
The new half that's been with me
Hubby
longer than the
part
old
two.
half.
husband 2.0. Upgraded. And
Always get that first one out of the way, you know?
practice run.
Well, Whitney's my first wife, so I'll start there.
Oh, okay.
Not a practice run.
I had a practice run. You don't get a practice run.
Perfect on the first try. All right, so I'm Bradley. I grew up here in Utah and West Jordan. I am also a middle child, so I have 2 older brothers, a younger sister, and a younger brother. So we grew up here in Utah, LDS. No longer LDS, but that's a story for another day. After high school, I moved to Arizona, which was great for me. Great learning experience. Got to see a lot of things and feel a different culture. And I think that kind of helped me bring me out of my shell and let me know that it was okay not practicing the LDS religion. So I think that was good for me, and working with a lot of people. Like, I worked here and it was everybody's LDS, and then going there, it was not. So I think that was very good for me. When I was there, I was working in the engineering field, and then I ended up moving back home with the company. And I had nothing going on, really, minus work. So no girlfriend, no house. And I joined the military. So I did the military for 12 years. While in the military, I met Whitney. And
Who was married at the time?
Yes.
who was married at the time. We were actually all somewhat friends.
What?
We all worked together. And so that was,
We all worked together.
that's one of those interesting stories, you know?
I was friends with the secretary, but
Obviously, you should not do that.
ended up in a roundabout way. Now my wife. So
Roundabout way.
episode 13. So I think the military, and with Whitney, I made a career change, and now I'm in the nursing field. So I'm kind of the stereotypical nurse, they'll call it.
Male nurse.
Male nurse. So now that's kind of my story. So now it's just me and Whitney, and we're living here in the neighborhood and living it up.
Yep. We moved to the neighborhood at the end of 2018, which we said, and we were one of the very first in the neighborhood since we all built, and we just kind of waited for everyone to move in.
Yeah. And then next moved in was
Justin and Curry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I can explain some of that dynamic.
So my name's Curry. Grew up in Alpine, Utah. Grew up in a large Mormon family. 3 older, 3 younger. I'm right in the middle, like Brad
These
and
middle
Whitney.
children.
Oh, look how you and Whitney connect so well.
Look at us.
too.
That's why we get along.
Grew up kind of
The peacemakers.
yeah, did kind of the
I don't think that's
what
true.
I'm supposed to as the Mormon boy. Went on a mission when I was 19. Got married when I got home to a woman. That did not work so well. That ended after a few years.
Wait a
but
minute. I thought you were straight and your husband was gay.
surprising.
Wait, what?
Is that a thing?
Back to spouse 2.0.
Spouse 2.0.
Yes, see?
Oh, yeah. So we did have, while I was married, we did have 2 kids, adopted 1 and 1 biological. And then that did not end well. So we got divorced and met Justin. And from there, we kind of got married,
Well, like it ended well for me.
Well, it did end well for you. It didn't end well for the
Ended on
first
that happily
marriage.
ever after.
The first marriage did not end well, and then we got the happily ever after, and met Justin and dated him for a while, and got married, and have 2 more kids from there.
Yeah. And it's going to be fun to talk about some of the many stories because as you can imagine, Curry growing up in Alpine, Utah, and me being a little farm boy in Idaho, we were definitely opposites.
Very different.
So,
Very different.
Wooden spoons to golden spoons.
that's right. Yeah, wooden spoon meets golden spoon. But we do spoon.
The spooning is all that really matters.
Spooning is all that matters. So I grew up in Idaho, grew up on a farm in Idaho. I was the second youngest of 8 kids. So I have a younger sister that's 7 years younger than me. So you can imagine what went through my mind when I thought that I was the youngest child.
You have that
and 7 years
baby
later.
syndrome. Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up typical kind of Mormon household. I ended up coming out of the closet when I was 18, 19 and decided, I should go on a mission. That was a great
logical.
Those usually go hand in hand.
For me,
Everybody's
though,
doing it.
For me, though, the mission was a choice. Like I never felt the pressure to go on a mission. Never thought that I was going to go on a mission, but I chose to based on kind of what I was dealing with in my personal life at the time. Ended up serving my mission for 21 months and then getting sent home for kissing
Aren't they
another
normally
mission.
aren't they 24 months long usually?
Typically.
But then when you kiss your companion, it
frowned upon?
ends a little early.
A few months early.
Which I will have lots of mission companion stories to share.
I can't wait for these.
It'll be super fun.
Fantastic.
Came home and at that point definitely knew that that was not the life that I was going to be living. So I moved to Salt Lake 3 days after I got home and started working in Salt Lake. And then that's Curry and I met. And like he said, we ended up, he had 2 kids and we ended up having 2 more. And we moved into the neighborhood. It was probably 2 or 3 months after you, Brad and Whitney. And what a, our intention was to be here for 1 year, 2 at the very most. And here we are
5 years later.
And can't even fathom moving anywhere. And it's
Not for a lack of trying, though.
No, here's the thing, you guys. I think at one point we've all Justin and Curry the most have definitely looked about moving out of the neighborhood. But at one point, even earlier this year, we were all like, maybe we all build together. Maybe we all move. But that's kind of been the thing. If we're moving together. And I guess we're just staying put for now.
Totally. But let's be clear, real estate is our profession. So what's not so much that we don't like the neighborhood as much as it's in us to try to move. But
See those homes in you.
Justin and Curry all obviously like the heat too, because every time it gets cold outside, they're like, "We got to move," and they start cleaning their house to move every winter. So after 5 years,
so true.
5 years later, we know this.
We're consistent.
The rest of us have a plan of what can we do to sabotage their cell so they stay for at least 1 more year. Once it's warm,
they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
So as you can see, we are already breaking all kinds of stereotypes. When you have the military guy across the table, you have the gays on this side of the table.
Now we're going to open up
And
to
now
Ty.
we have
Mr. Bai.
Mr. Bai.
My name is Ty Bai. It has nothing to do with my sexual preferences.
We know
born
of
this
you.
way. Hey,
I was born this way.
Don't diss it till you try it.
You could probably just end it no sex for me right now. So yeah,
You got the asexual here, so
pretty much it seems to go that way.
It wasn't always this way.
So I grew up in Orem. I'm the elder statesman of this group. I'm a little bit older than everybody. So way back in the day when I when I was growing up, I was in Orem. Similar story. Also grew up LDS. Typical stuff. Always trying to look like we're perfect. And I really struggled with that because for some reason my family tried even harder at that. So home life was a little crazy. So actually I was not super excited to go on a mission for the mission's sake, but to get out of town was probably my favorite.
How many siblings did you have?
I was the oldest of 5. So no middle child here.
We got lots of middle children here to gang up on you.
It's so true.
So you're like the patriarch of the group.
I kind of am. Like the
Justin will take a blessing after this episode.
I'm the old,
Ty, will you lay
extremely
your hands
crazy.
upon my head?
You need to be anointed. Oh, this is awful. So obviously, I no longer am practicing in the LDS church either. After my mission, I actually moved up to Washington State, was doing startups, and somehow met somebody and got married. We had 3 children over the course of 18 years. During that time, I was working at startup companies and finally decided to move back to Utah, where she was from and where I was from. And so we would have more of a family support system as my hours were long. And
did you meet her here?
No,
No,
I
in
met
Washington.
her. Well, I knew her family here
Oh, okay.
and imported her to Washington.
Oh, so she wasn't living
she
there.
went with you.
What was the shipping cost on that?
No, she wasn't. So
Did she come in the Wayfair
very
box?
Fucking expensive. Thank you.
That was more of a down the road expense.
Probably.
Was she sold as an Ellen pillow? Just kidding.
What does that mean?
Is that a Wayfair reference?
Yes.
Do not look it up. Do not look it up.
Oh no, I am going to.
So obviously, as things sometimes go, things didn't work out. So we divorced probably 4 years ago, and now I am a never-ending well of terrible first date stories for this group. So some of the conversations that I start have been therapeutic in terms of me coping with a somewhat bitter divorce, and these guys have just shown up as my new family, and I love them for it. So I'm excited to be involved.
We have definitely turned into a family for sure.
We give Ty
family
relationship advice if he wants it or not.
Oh my gosh, totally.
I need it, whether I want it or
But
not.
let's be honest, like we give each other advice whether we want it or not.
Unsolicited advice is always free.
We'll call each other out on their craziness.
If I wanted your opinion, I would give it to you.
And I will.
And do.
So that's 3 for the divorce club here.
Yep, each one of us.
Totally.
Look at
Each
Justin
household.
and
May the odds be ever in our favor.
Look at Justin and I holding down the fort
That's
here.
right.
Man.
Yeah. It's really on you guys to hold down the fort. Otherwise, that will make 2 of us twice divorced.
That's going to be a problem.
But no, and I think that it's one of those things that we all moved into the neighborhood right around the same time. And so it's kind of a unique experience. When you first move into a neighborhood, you're kind of doing all of the things that require you to interact and work with your neighbor. And so I think that was a big part of kind of our relationship and how we got to where we are at today. Is just we're sharing fences with each other.
You have to get them signed off here. You got to get your landscaping and your fencing signed
right.
off by
Yeah,
your neighbors.
we were definitely forced to, not that we didn't want to, but you are forced to communicate with neighbors, right?
That's right.
And interact. Yep.
Which has been
Interact,
great
that's
for,
word.
it's been great for us here in this neighborhood, not just with this group, but I think with all the homes here in this little community.
That's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that it's important to note all of our neighbors are awesome.
So good.
We're the only ones here doing the podcast, and it's probably because we stay out way too late at night out on the patio drinking, and
Our
whatnot.
choice of beverage differs from most of our neighbors, that's for sure.
But that has not stopped everyone from sitting with us, which has been really, really cool.
Absolutely.
And I approve this message as our HOA president, you know.
That's
Oh my
right.
gosh, you're about to get
Right.
kicked off the board.
But like, and I think that's the cool thing about this neighborhood is you have like as diverse as you can say for Lehigh. We're a pretty diverse neighborhood, whether it's we have LDS people, we have non-LDS people, we have some LDS people that are kind of going to church, we have but regardless of
But you have other religions too here.
well, exactly.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot.
races. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
we're very diverse.
Yeah, and I think that like that's one cool thing about this neighborhood too. Is just like no one cares what you do, and they let you do your thing. We let them do their thing, and we all love each other, and it just doesn't matter.
When we do a lot of activities where we pull the community together, we pull the whole neighborhood together, do activities, get to meet each other where it's not in our own separate groups doing our own separate things.
Yeah,
Right.
kind of a random side note. So I just did a clothing drive for work. And I did it with my department at work, and I did it with our neighborhood. We only have 24 homes here. And we've done a clothing drive every year in the wintertime for the hospital. This has been the most successful clothing drive we've done. And people are like, what the heck? Like, how did you get so much participation? I only did it for a week. The hospital usually does it for a month. And we've gotten probably 10 times the amount because of the neighborhood support here. Which is just awesome. I think I just posted on our little group, and people... I woke up this morning with like 10 coats and gloves and shoes on my porch.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's just an awesome community that comes together, and they look out for one another, and they support one another. And I think they're just all in it for everyone. So,
Yeah.
It's definitely been the best neighborhood we've ever lived in. And we've lived in some really good neighborhoods.
Yeah. And we said the same thing that Justin Curry said of this is going to be a 3 to 5 year plan. And now it's basically a plan till when other people move out, like Justin Curry. So,
We're taking
Justin
you with
and
us.
Curry, Ty, you guys are out. We'll
it's
we'll just be following you.
it's basically on the verge every winter.
We're just about to gear up to find out where we're going.
It's so true.
Well, and I like how everyone embraces whoever I'm dating at that moment. They're always so welcoming.
And by moment, it
Whether
could be
they're
one
crazy.
day to the next. Like, you just never know.
even this is true. Even if they ask you where you're from 6 or 7 times, it doesn't matter.
Where do you
They're
live?
always welcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people don't remember faces or conversations, so it's
This
fine.
is true. This is true.
It's part of dating, Ty.
I struggle.
That sounded like
it's
that was
okay.
part of dating Ty, like specifically.
No,
Well,
dating
I mean,
me
read
is
through the
pretty
lines if you
crazy.
need.
Let's be honest. I'm sure we'll get into that in other episodes as well, unfortunately.
For
me,
sure we
but
will.
I'll take it for the team. One of those things, I guess.
So, what's one thing that you remember when you first moved into the neighborhood?
Oh, no. I know Brad's, I think.
What I give two things, one of each of you guys. Like first experiences.
Go for it.
Okay, so first Justin Curry moved in, and we live in Utah. There's not very many gay couples here.
With kids.
Well,
That was the
yeah,
rumor.
There's not very many gay
A
couples.
gay couple's moving in
children.
with kids.
So we get this rumor, hey, did you hear a gay couple bought that house across from us and they have kids? So everybody's like, well, how old are the kids? Like, we have kids. Are they the same age as our kids? What's going on? Like, do they hang out with straight people? Do they,
Can our kids hang out with their kids?
are they going to be mad that we used to be LDS? Like, what's going to happen? And anyways, I think it was a lot of unknowns for a lot of people in this neighborhood, including ourselves. I mean,
Not that we were worried about it. I think we were all just
LGBTQ
curious
community was not,
of like,
it was not a foreign thing to us, but
no, it was more
it
of
was
like
foreign with kids.
the
for
kids
sure.
was, more foreign.
And so we kind of heard some rumors of like, well, I think they're younger kids, I think. And then
We didn't know for months, guys. We did not know for months.
Why? That's so weird.
So weird.
so this couple moves in, and all we know is the cars they drive. We don't we don't even know what they look like because they
pull right into the garage.
they back into the garage and they see us looking like, who's in that car? And the garage door shuts.
They shut the garage door before they get out of the car.
Before
So
even getting out of the car.
we're like peeking under the garage, like,
they have
how
an
many feet are
excuse
getting
for
out?
that,
How many
but
feet? How
I
big do
don't
they
know
look?
I don't know if I actually buy the excuse, but what was the excuse?
To be honest, if I was looking across the street and I saw my neighbors like following the garage
like
door
this.
down as they were like looking
my head
underneath
kept getting closer to the
I'd be a
ground.
little weary of those people too. So,
Excuse me, have you heard the good word?
In my defense, it
I have
was
a
the
magazine
middle
for
of
you.
the winter.
Again, the cold.
It
Now-
was
You
you were
cold.
trying to
Now
move.
it's not out of norm.
The funny thing is, you think we would be good neighbors and like bring you cookies, so you're forced to answer the door or whatnot. No, we didn't do that. We just waited for months until Curry actually approached us and asked if we wanted a tricycle for our young daughter.
Who I was also watching through the front window to see if you had kids.
It's funny though, like honestly, it like I think back to that and that totally did happen. And we are totally guilty of that. When we moved into a neighborhood, we were always a little nervous, especially being in Lehigh, of like how are we going to be accepted? You know, there was a previous neighborhood where there were certain homes where our kids weren't allowed to play with other kids because we were gay. And so moving into the neighborhood, we're always a little nervous, and we never want to be that couple that
understandable.
Is it-
gay couple that's in your face, because we're always accused of being.
Is it still contagious?
Pushing your agenda, huh?
Have they cured that?
It's a virus to some.
I
got
feel a
vaccinated.
little more
I got
flamboyant being these guys'
vaccinated,
buddies. So I think it's a good thing.
So I think that like it's very fascinating, because one of the things that I totally remember is, you know, we moved in March, and we did do the whole garage door thing, and part of it was probably because it's cold, part of it's because we were avoiding interaction, who knows. But when June came around, it was Pride Month, and I thought it was the coolest thing to look across the street, and Brad and Whitney had their pride flag up on their flagpole. And that was the moment for me. I remember posting that on Facebook and just thinking like how awesome it is that here we are in Happy Valley, Utah County, Lehigh, Utah, all of the above, where it just wasn't super common that you would see rainbow flags flying. And instantly we felt safe. We felt safe in the neighborhood.
I would agree with that, Justin. I think that's coming from my background, where a lot of disappointment, a lot of shame, a lot of separation from family, to see that flag flying that was from somebody that I didn't know it was that feeling of safe, that feeling of like, I'm okay here and I can be me and I'm seen for who I am, and that's okay. And I think that was one of the biggest draws that we had to this neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think it was actually like a peace offering for me, really. Of like, we had our flag; it's a 2-flag flagpole, and when it was Pride Week, like month,
Still a month.
Don't short us 3 weeks.
we extended it 3 weeks. For all those listening, it's now a month.
Next year, you're flying it all July too, mister.
But so we've always been supportive of the LGBTQ community. And I think with you guys being across the street, and it was like, hey, I should let them know by putting this flag up there. So I ordered it and put it out there. And then I think it was like 2 days later, Whitney showed me.
Well, that was like we had just gotten the flagpole too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Whitney showed me, she's like, hey, the gay neighbors posted our flag on social media. And I was like, oh, look at that olive branch going out.
Look at us. We're going to be friends.
Yeah, but I think we've talked here and there at that point, like just in the street saying hi.
Yeah, we gave you a tricycle.
You have a tricycle.
That was the peace offering right there.
Olive branch number 1
The international symbol
of support.
of support of allies.
That and
Please
tickets to the
accept this
Parade of Homes.
tricycle.
So
Oh, that's right.
if you give
Yeah.
gifts, people will just love you.
That and we had my mother who's going through a crisis
Oh, these poor guys.
with her
We
house.
We love Brad's mother.
That we're gonna have to tell that story
We'll
sometime
tell that story.
because that was.
But she did help my mom.
stories.
That
Yeah,
was,
Justin
that
Curry
was a big
helps.
part of it. Yeah.
So yeah, my mom will
Helped
come up
us
with
out
many,
in,
many stories. But they
crazy-
helped sell my mom's house, and it was kind of a crazy experience for them. And I think it was a bonding experience for all of us because my mom kind of gets a little crazy.
I mean, if we can just tell
Whose
one
doesn't?
story about selling your mom's house. For me, it was at the very end,
Getting the cats out of the
chasing
roof.
the cat out of the ceiling. She had those like tile ceilings in the basement.
Oh my gosh.
And like there was 2 cats, but one that was like so wild.
One lived
and
in the
literally
ceiling.
Lived in the ceiling.
Oh my gosh.
And it
Yes.
was like tapping those tile roofs to try to get the cat down.
So my
My
mother called
gosh.
Justin as the realtor and said,
Come
"Hey,
get this cat.
I have an issue. We have an open house, and I have a cat in the ceiling that's going nuts. It lives
What
up
do
there."
you do? Did you go tap the ceiling?
Damn right. I went down.
That's what,
cat wrangler.
that's what true realtors do.
He was there. He was there.
And Curry, all this time, I thought you were the only one that herded the cats.
Nope.
Curry's like, good luck with that. See ya.
Have fun.
The cat comes with the house.
Oh my
Justin,
This is a
Justin's
house
too
pet.
kind.
Wow.
Too kind.
That was,
is amazing.
I think, with that story especially, like involving my mother's house sale. I think that's what really bonded us at the end. Was kind of communicating and
Yeah.
getting on the same page of that, of like some of the struggle that we've had. We've got to share with you.
Well, and again, going back to the non-judgment, like we were able to.
Coming back to that non-judgment.
I totally chased cats
With
around your mom's
so
house.
many
and didn't judge you.
opportunities to judge.
Okay, let's just
so there
put
was a
this
little
on the
judgment.
table. It's not necessarily a judgment-free zone.
That's true.
Just-
That's true.
We're all coming with our judgments to each other. They're all accepted.
Very shared.
I love you, even though.
Yes, exactly.
Even though your mom has cats living in the ceiling.
Oh my goodness.
Where was that litter box at? You know, I don't know. You just don't know.
Was it in the ceiling?
There were
Well, we
like
just
some
don't
like
know.
those like wet markings on
Oh boy.
You know, the
the
important
tile
thing is
ceiling.
that house actually sold. So that's the
Yes.
important thing.
Is that on the
Never
seller
mind the
disclosure?
open house.
Is that on the disclosure statement?
What
Yes,
is
of
that
course it was.
smell?
Oh man.
There's
Wow.
enough Febreze in the world.
Well, then came Ty's story. So the other memory for me is the first time I met Ty.
Time heals wounds. Let's just say that up front.
Ty was the last one to move into the neighborhood. There was a house kind of sat for a little bit, and it was right behind us. And we had no backyards in our neighborhood at the time. We were all putting them in. So I was outside working on the backyard, and I went inside for a minute, and I saw two guys outside looking at that house in the yard where the lot corners are.
I don't even remember who was with me.
You were out there with your buddy, and anyways, I tell Whitney, I'm like, oh, there's 2 guys looking at that house. I'm like, maybe we get a 2-for-1. We get like 2 gay couples in the neighborhood.
One neighborhood.
I'm gonna go out.
The bad
Can this
news
be in Utah County?
is he's not gay. The good news is he's bi. So
He introduced himself as bi. I don't know what that means, but so I went out there and I'm like, oh, hey, are you looking at this house? Are you trying to buy it? And he was like, no, I did buy it. I'm like, oh, so we kind of started talking for a minute, and it was like one of the first paragraphs you said. And it was like, well, I did buy the house. If you ever see a Porsche in the driveway, it's the Porsche I bought my ex-wife's new husband. And I tried to process that.
boy.
So I went inside. I remember telling Whitney, I'm like, well, I met this bi guy. I'm like, it's going to be interesting, you know?
It's going to be an interesting neighbor.
interesting neighbor. I'm like, I think he has
on
some.
board.
I think he has some anger built up. But this is what he said. Whitney's like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm like, well, we'll see what it brings.
And you know what? You've been very interesting.
Yes. Keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times.
Oh,
Yeah,
fancy.
that has been. But I think that that was a good first experience. Kind of made us more curious of what the hell's going on. So We kind of tried to pry.
I'm glad it did.
Yeah, the putting in the yards, I think we just all kind of had to communicate with one another. And I think that's what really got Bradley and Whitney and Ty.
Yeah, because we actually we met Ty through you two. I think we were out front and you were like, oh, we should text Ty to come over because we hadn't even met him yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, imagine that. Like we
were
didn't
still shutting the garage.
shutting our garage door.
I didn't realize there was a pride flag thing. I had to raise the flag in order to be
Well,
included.
your house faces the other way. No one would have seen
I've
it.
since
Okay?
corrected that. I do have a pride flag. I do fly it.
We kind of hung out in the backyard more so.
That's true.
for
At the
first
very
spring.
beginning,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Because we were all putting in
Because
our
there's no
backyards.
fences too,
and
so
we,
it's like everybody's backyard.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we back up to 5 neighbors at our house. And so we were all putting in our backyards all at the same time for basically the first spring, summer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we kind of got closer with those neighbors, and then with our kids playing on the street on bikes and scooters and whatever. That's where we kind of met Justin and Curry, and then we kind of combined.
Yeah, but really, we've all gotten really close to each other by sitting out in the driveways and
Yeah.
having these crazy
Long,
conversations.
Great conversations.
Yeah, once the fences went up, and I mean literally in the backyard, that's when we all started sitting out front. And
So
that's
maybe
where
the gate is next because we've been talking about the gate.
I know, for 5 years.
Between the yards for as long as we're talking about the podcast. So maybe
Maybe we'll actually
we'll start
happen.
a podcast GoFundMe for the gate.
That and COVID, I think, helped us build
COVID
a stronger
for sure
relationship.
helped.
Yes, it did.
Which I think with a lot of people, it pushed people away because there were so many differing opinions and differing like perspectives of what COVID even was. And was it, something we worry about? Was it not? Was it this? Was it
People
that?
sheltered in
Like,
place.
Yeah.
And we
We did
sheltered
too.
with one another.
Yeah. We sheltered in
in place
place
was
as
the
the
border of the
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
I was angry for like the first year because I was considered this, what did they call them? Essential workers?
Yes.
I
None
probably
of the
drink.
rest
So
of
if
us
any of
were.
us were getting
Everybody
sick, it
else-
was Brad's fault.
Everybody else stayed home and I had to go to work every day
I do remember
at the
like
office.
sneaking into your house or
Oh my
like,
gosh,
because we were
yes.
afraid that the neighbors would judge us if we were like,
All hanging out together.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then it's like now you think about like of all the things the neighbors could judge us for, we were worried about that.
Probably very low.
It was the early morning mimosa run back and forth.
It was
That
the
was great.
shoveling the streets with the snow.
one path.
One path just so we could get to each other's houses.
From our doorstep to your doorstep.
It was not obvious to anybody what was happening.
Nothing to see here.
Look at this weird snow pattern.
It just felt like that. It's weird.
It's meant to be.
It's 3 feet of snow and there's this 2-foot pathway from one door to the other.
Oh my goodness. Glad that's over with.
Definitely, but I'm glad this is just beginning
For sure.
because I think this is going to be so fun. We're going to have a lot of fun, open conversations, and I cannot wait to have them with all the listeners and really have them get to know us. And again, like encourage them to have similar relationships in their own lives and just how awesome it is to feel kind of that connection that we all have with each other.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Don't forget, you can find us online at tipsyneighbors.com, at the Tipsy Neighbors on Instagram, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Tipsy Neighbors. We hope to hear from you soon.